each of the what I would consider opening sequences of the Dark Triad fights has, gone by. We got to see Flex's new form. We got to see Charlotte's modified Briars as well as her true Briar magic. And then Jack cut gravity magic and then have this sick blender Beyblade look going on. But I think a lot of people aren't just, looking at it from an in the moment perspective knows that these guys are not done. Like, none of the Triad are defeated from this. I mean, like, Xenon hasn't gone beyond 55%. Vonica was literally just getting up out of her chair to participate. And Dante, like, the moment at the end of the chapter when he was looking all freaked out from Jack cutting him, we know that those moments mean that Dante is about to get serious because he likes to experience those emotions even if they're humiliating, because it's just something that gets him, riled up. He likes that darker side of like humanity. He likes feeling that like almost like soul wrenching I don't want to say embarrassment, but just kind of that shock. It makes him feel human. So, well, his whole ideas of being human, he's got a very weird perspective. And I know everyone understands like what I mean by that, but his whole moment is definitely still coming up, and we know that he got stronger while in the tube from Morris's magic sorcery. Like, I don't think it's just his regenerative properties. I think his body magic in general. So when we get to the next chapter set, I'm pretty sure we're going to be seeing what exactly his larger scale upgrades are going to be. Like, it won't surprise me if he can make some form of pseudo copies of himself or something, some form of clone. It obviously still in the waiting. It's something that we haven't got to yet, but he's got more up his sleeve than we know. That's one of the things as well. Like, body magic is a really strange one to like give to this character, but at the same time, it has a lot of just general possibilities. And I don't think we've really scratched the surface of what he can do, and then him getting upgraded just tells us like he's going to have a lot more to offer. So these next couple chapters, I think, are really going to be about just kind of getting it more set towards the fight itself. I kind of would prefer it to be a bit more even up until the point of when they get one of the devils out, and that's when I think things are going to really start to shift. And granted, the Clover has people still on their way. Like, Noelle isn't even there yet. Asta's not there yet. And both of them are coming with new abilities. And a lot of people already speculate someone like Mars is on the way. But on top of that, the Witch Queen, I think, is going to get involved too, personally, just because they're encroaching onto her forest and whatnot. There's a lot of people that I think still need to show up. But those being some of the biggest folk, I think, are obviously going to be major factors in this fight. And think about this, like, if they're already doing this, I don't want to say well, because we're still very early in. Like, as I said, I don't think the Triad has even gotten to the point where they're in either a checkmate position from either side. I think this is just them getting excited, like, getting warmed up. These last few chapters, I think, are just going to be what motivates them to fight seriously, instead of just, okay, they show up and then they fight, these characters, members of the Clover. Because I think it just needs more of a personal reason for each of them. And we know somewhat about all three of them. Though the one that we had obviously the least is Xenon. Like, we know Vonica has this weird personality shift between people that she's excited to fight and then people that, she finds boring. We know that if she doesn't find somebody exciting to fight, she just doesn't seem to really care about their existence. Whereas, like, the second she's wants to actually go at them, like, she gets absolutely hyped up, and, we start seeing her psychotic, sadistic slasher slatterer. And then Dante, like I said about Dante's personality, we already know that. We know that he likes kind of to experience these different sides of his emotions. But it would be weird to have them lose here, and then, again, I don't think that's the case. Whereas, I think it was primarily to give the Clover a little bit of spotlight before things kind of get a little hectic, because none of them are going to be doing this well when they start fighting seriously. Like, in a group fight, sure, they're going to need some more members, because we know what the Dark Triad members are all capable of. But even with, like, say, Charlotte and her modified Briars being able to, absorb curse power, it's not really gonna, like, I don't think it's really gonna be a full game changer for, like, the full scale fight against Vonica and Megikyo. Like an aid, sure, but I think it'd be really weird if Charlotte alone, just because she can counter her, means that she's gonna defeat her. Like, when it came to someone like more like Dark Elf Patri, I was like, okay, well, Nozel countering him was kind of more fine, because he was like a surprise mini boss in a way. Like, he was powerful, but he wasn't he wasn't the end all of the arc. Like, beating him didn't save anything, and but beating him didn't save, like, members of the cast outside of, I guess you can kind of count Patri, because he's like he's an important character, but he wasn't as, like, vital as, say, someone obviously like Astra, But you know what I mean? He was not somebody that's like, okay, if we beat this guy, we win. It's like, okay, we have to beat this guy to get to the actual big guy. And none of the Triad have that same, like, position where they're, like, the equivalent of Dark Elf Patri. Like, they are much more, like, I don't know, I guess still Zagrid kind of tier, but not the entirety of it, because that is more obviously Dante as, like, the leader of the Dark Triad, but still, like, neither Vonica or Xenon have so much of a lower position than Dante. Like, Dante's edge on them is obviously he's got Lucifaro, he's got the top devil as far as we know, and he's the, leader, supposedly. He's got the crown, and he's fighting the main character. Like, his opponent is tied to the main character. But in terms of, so far, like, the value and weight he holds, again, outside of the story standpoint, from, like I said, main character fight aspect and Lucifaro ties, they're still around in the same boat. And I think it would be really weird to, in any way, defeat Xenon or Vonica in less, like, exciting hype ways than someone like Dante. Like, Dante's will be the last one, but I don't even see the possibility of Tabata defeating any of them in such a short, kind of hasty manner. It'd be really, really weird if he did that, to be perfectly honest. Like if we got that with, say, the Diamond General, that seems, a little bit more important. I think a lot of people can just guess this guy is he's got a little bit more story value. Like, if Tabata just said, never mind, I don't really want to have this guy around, killed him off, I could see that happening, just because he's closer to, like, what I would consider, like, Dark Elf Patri's value in Elf Resurrection arc. Not nearly as much, but you know what I mean? He's somebody that we're looking at. But, oh my god, because I was going to also mention Morris, but I mean, like, Morris has a lot more value than I would consider in the story than, like, Dark Elf Patri was. Because the thing about Morris has pre-existing ties to things, and on top of that, Morris is somebody that a lot of people are really curious about. And being able to do stuff like modify Dante's body to increase his regeneration magic and whatnot is, like, it gives him a very large level of upcoming importance. Like, he doesn't hold, like, a for sure, like, he's going to be, like, his own arc villain, or he's gonna survive this arc, or what. But I think a lot of people believe that, and a lot of people know that he holds more value than I think we currently are being led on to know. He's one of those characters where I feel like if we look back at the story later, we can be like, oh yeah, of course he was, more powerful than, what we thought. He's a bigger deal based off of X, Y, and Z. But yeah, I really just see the Triad busting out in the next chapter. Like, I really just expect them to all jump out of whatever situation they're in. Vonica busts out of that with her red beast. Xenon's gonna probably use, like, more than, I would assume more than his 55%. But also on top of that, I want to see more of his magic just in general. I really like his bone magic. His base one is probably my favorite out of the Dark Triad, just because, I mean, bone manipulation is really cool in of itself. But yeah, these fights are just getting started. Like, they're nothing. None of this is too crazy right now in terms of, like, the the level of weight that these characters are at, none of them are defeated. None of them are in a spot where we should expect them defeated. And none of them are where we should stop paying attention to, like, smaller pieces as of what they're doing. Like, at the end of the last chapter, Dante was pulling out his singularity, but when Jack cut him, you actually couldn't see the singularity on panel. It's just like, okay, was Tabata being a little sneaky with this? Does he not want us to notice that, he's still got the attack up? And it's stuff like that. It's like, well, Jack's still probably in trouble, because just because he can damage Dante does not mean that he can beat Dante. Like, he can put a cut on Dante's body, but Dante's got a lot of hacks still to come, and I fully believe that he's got a lot of dangerous spells that we haven't seen. And I'd be curious to know, actually, just thinking about it, if Jack's severing magic would even work on... Like, if Jack's severing magic would even work on his warping, like his spatial warping that we saw, because when Asta swung his sword at him, like, it went through, and from what I can tell, his specific spatial warping, it is gravity originated, but he's using gravity to, like, warp space, like, space, the actual space, not spatial magic, which makes it so, I would assume... trying to use, like, magic, something like, or in that case, anti-magic, is going to, it's going to go right through, because the difference between, like, what Yami and Jack is Jack would adapt to like, body magic or gravity magic, and then be able to cut it, but when he's using the spatial warping, he's not entirely using gravity magic. I could see where it'd be like, okay, well, he's used, it's almost like it stems from the gravity, well, it does stem from gravity, rather. It's almost like it has, like, the gravity aspect, but at the same time, it's not. It's just one of those things, it's the after effect, and I'd be wondering if the outer layer of wherever the gravity is being applied to would be what Jack cuts. Because I don't see Jack putting the same level of, presence at that point, because of the way his magic works versus how, like, he's doing that. So I didn't really think about that too much, but at the same time, it makes sense based off of what we know about their magic, and what we know about Dante, and concepts of how magic works versus what Jack's magic does. I don't know. I don't want to ramble too much, because this is already going longer than I thought. But, yeah, the next chapter, they're going to bust out. They're going to bust out. Well, Vonika's the only one's going to bust out. But you know what I mean? They're all going to turn the tides of their fight. None of them are defeated. None of them have anything yet to worry about. I think if there were more people, like, in general, showing up, that'd be different. Like, if we had... like, on top of everything else, like, okay, you have multiple captains showing up to each scene. Because we have one captain each seemingly set up to show up to aid them. But I don't think that's going to be enough. I really, really don't. That'll just be enough to, I think, kind of even out against a serious member of the Triad, when they're no longer kind of toying around. They're ready to actually do their dangerous moves and be scary. But anyway, other than that, though, comment below, thumbs up the video, but from the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. But other than that, I appreciate everybody's already subscribed. I thank you all for listening. Bye.